Yeah, alright. It's me, James Stephanie Sterling. I'm a car now, like in Disney's Pixar's The Cars, starring The Cars. Disney's homophobic, by the way. Don't know if you saw that. At least they fund it. Homophobia, that is. Sorry, didn't mean to get too political in a video about market manipulation and fiscal abuse. So yeah, we're going to be talking about Gran Turismo 7, which will please one person on Twitter who demanded I do a video about Gran Turismo 7. I'm not doing it for that person, by the way. I was gonna do it anyway, but I don't want them watching this and thinking they've had some sort of moral victory. Anyway, Gran Turismo 7 is a video on that for a minute. I thought Chocobo GP was bad, and let's not beat around the bush here, it is. It's fucking shit. But in a rare turn of events, Sony has managed to out Square Enix when it comes to being a nakedly avaricious, pathetically desperate hack fuck of a publisher. We are, of course, talking about Gran Turismo 7, the latest installment in a beloved racing series that was doing just bloody fine until Sony and Polyphony Digital, emphasis on the phony, decided to fuck it all up and is now having to walk back some of the fiscally malicious decisions it made. Twats. Indeed, mere hours ago, as of the time this video was written, Sony has had to deliver a bounty of virtual money to its players by way of apology, something it would never have had to do if it hadn't deliberately fucked around so blatantly. After initially committing to its decisions, the walkback has been delicious to witness, but let's get to the beginning and discuss why GT fans have been so pissed off.
I like to do it, I like to do it, I like to do it.
Basically, Gran Turismo 7 has been an exploitative scam since it launched. Wait, no, let's scratch that. Since before it launched. It came out to rave reviews from the press, but not one review mentioned exactly how lousy with microtransactions it was. It turned out that was by design, as in a move Activision Blizzard would approve of, GT7's in-game economy wasn't activated until after the reviews were published, effectively robbing critics of the chance to accurately assess the game in an accurate fashion and accurately warn concerned fans about the accurate level of predation found within the game. And it was a pretty brutal level of predation. Previous entries in the series featured in-app purchases, but Gran Turismo 7 took them to a whole other fucking level. Bundles of virtual Monopoly money start out at $2.49 for 100,000 credits and wind up to $19.99 for 200,000. Compared to the last oh no, it's 2 million. Fucking absurd. Compared to the last entry, it's been estimated that prices bumped up 0.3 cents per 1,000 credits, a small figure on its own, but one that becomes substantial when you look at the ridiculous amount of credits GT7 deals in per transaction. The prices for individual cars has been utterly fucking obscene. Up to hundreds of thousands of these goddamn credits are required for the most desirable fake vehicles, and like with the credit prices overall, the costs have been bumped up compared to previous Gran Turismo games. In this case, the price hikes have been astronomical. We're talking $40 for the top tier cars, individually purchased of course. Yes, that's on top of the asking price for the game, and when you consider this is one of the current gen games arrogantly and churlishly charging $70 instead of the previous standard $60, you're looking at $110 for a game about cars and another car. This rise is absolutely staggering. The Aston Martin Vulcan 16, for example, cost $4.99 in GT Sport and is now being sold for $40. Even at $4.99, let's be honest, that's an absolute piss take, but to bump the price up so extremely is, well, I'm compelled to call it vulgar. Despicably, desperately vulgar. This isn't including upgrade parts, by the way. Yes, cars can be upgraded, and yes, upgrades cost credits too. Some cars cost an million credits, an amount, by the way, you cannot outright purchase as a complete sum. This is an old trick designed to keep you buying additional amounts to afford things, or otherwise sit with useless currency burning a hole in your digital pocket. Also, you can't sell cars for credits anymore, as if GT7 needed to wear it any more garishly on its sleeve that it had been designed entirely around swindling its fan base with in-app purchases. On top of all this, Jimquisition subtitler, Podquisition co-host and friend of the show Laura K. Dale pointed out to me that some of the cars being sold in rival game Forza on the Xbox Series X are the exact same vehicles as those sold in GT7, but are being sold for significantly cheaper. I mean, Jesus. Credits can be earned in-game, which is one of the industry's favourite get-outs, but we've for years discussed the trick there, how in-game grinding is an ableist manipulation designed solely to exasperate, frustrate and trick the player into giving up on the endless repetitive slog and cave to the in-game storefront. As mentioned in previous work, this tactic is especially deployed against neurodivergent people, particularly those with ADHD and autism, but it's also pretty effective against anybody with less patience than a game has ways to test it. Not to mention time. The average person is already expected to break their fucking back for corporate overlords, and so many games want to become a second job. It's such an encroachment on somebody's free time, especially when they've chosen to spend that free time playing a game they love, only to have that game effectively stab them in the fucking back. With the costs hiked compared to previous games, Gran Turismo 7 was already an excessive grind, but Polyphony Digital made it even worse after launch, deliberately nerfing in-game rewards with a patch. Yes, it seemed that after the game came out, despite it already being a grind, players were still being too rewarded for Polyphony's liking, and let's face it, that's the contemptuous attitude on display here. The developer saw players feeling too rewarded for playing a game they just bought and swooped in to put a stop to it, spitefully reducing the in-game rewards. I mean, when you put it like that, which I do, it's really bad. This is what makes the new inability to trade cars for credits so striking. Between that decision and the post-launch progress nerf, Polyphony was effectively trying to paint its own fans into a corner, attempting to trap and funnel them into a digital economy that it had just artificially inflated. A scam in the most accurate sense of the word, a pure, unfettered grift, the kind of serpentine behaviour that would make Android Wilson proud. As if all this wasn't bad enough, GT7 was unplayable for a day because the game has an always online requirement. This means that when the PlayStation Network was down for maintenance last week, the $70 game with $40 cars was inaccessible thanks to the outage of a $60 a year subscription service. And really, it's fucking rich for Sony to publish an always online game when it charges for online access in the first place. Fuck you! That is so cretinous! Anyway, that's why players received 1 million free credits recently. Because lol. There was a lot of understandable outrage from the Gran Turismo fan base, which incidentally led to the discovery of an exploit using remote play on PC to get GT7 to play itself, allowing players their own way of skipping the grind. After much protest, criticism, and a good old-fashioned Metacritic review bombing, GT creator Kazunori Yamauchi made an absolutely pitiful statement, hitting out with some of the most wetly useless hand-wringing vomit. Some event rewards have been adjusted, he said, giving the word adjusted more work than any single word should have to undertake. I wanted also to explain the reasons for it and our plans going forward. In GT7, I would like to have users enjoy lots of cars and races, even without microtransactions. At the same time, the pricing of cars is an important element that conveys their value and rarity, so I do think it's important for it to be linked with the real world prices. Fucking I want to make GT7 a game in which you can enjoy a variety of cars, lots of different ways, and if possible would like to
Try to avoid
a situation where a player must mechanically keep replaying certain events over and over again. We will in time let you know the update plans for additional content, additional race events, and additional features that will constructively resolve this. It pains me that I can't explain the details regarding this at the moment, but we plan on continuing to revise GT7 so that as many players as possible can enjoy the game. We would really appreciate it if everyone could watch over the growth of Gran Turismo 7 from a somewhat longer term point of view. That is an impressive number of words used to say absolutely fucking nothing. Less than nothing, in fact, since saying nothing would have been far less fucking insulting to our collective intelligence. I absolutely love the way in which he acts as if his hands are tied, saying how much he'd love to avoid players having to grind, if possible, but failing to know that they're only grinding because of decisions his own fucking team made. The use of the phrase "if possible" is absolutely fucking amazing on its own, as if GT7 is beyond the control of the fuckheads who are making and selling it. He knows full fucking well it's perfectly possible to enjoy a racing game without having to grind in it. He literally just has to make one in which players, you know, don't have to fucking do it. It is steeped in the same energy as those grovelling half-wit game executives who tell us microtransactions are great because they let players skip the grind, failing to note that they invented the fucking grind. Games never used to be so grindy, and they could take the grind out at any fucking time without charging players for it in ways players never used to be charged. The sheer ducking of responsibility is what makes me sick here, and it's been a long-time problem going back decades now. Game makers want to fill their products with CD in-app purchases, but don't want to be held accountable for them, absolutely detesting the responsibility that comes with being responsible for such irresponsible behaviour. Kazunori, you silly little prick, don't pretend that nothing could be done to fix this. This is all the result of decisions made by you, by your developers, and by Sony. Y'all designed the game to be this way. Y'all could change it, which in the latest development they've hilariously started to do. See, despite them asking us all to take a long-term view of the game, major corporations themselves are only ever short-term thinkers, and so Sony's had to be reactive in response to continued criticism. So it is that GT7 has started to limp back on some of its decisions. In an announcement made very recently, Sony has addressed the issues and promised an April update that will alter the game's progression and make it far less of a complete fuckover. The planned updates largely consist of a significant bump in player rewards across multiple game modes, from world circuits to online races. Essentially, it's having to reverse course on all the nerfing it made to rewards, something it never would have had to do in the first place if it hadn't fucked around. And we've been here before. We've been here with Shadow of War and Star Wars Battlefront 2, and they never fucking learn. All that's been accomplished is developers have had to put more time and effort and resources into fixing things it broke on purpose through sheer fucking greed, which means that time and effort and resources couldn't have been put toward improving the game properly. So much spent on bringing the game back up to baseline rather than furthering it. A pure waste of fucking labour that never needed to occur had yet another company not in its pure shitting arrogance believed it would be the one to be able to get away with it where others haven't. Still, they probably scored millions of dollars out of the people they were preying on before they had to make these changes, and maybe that was the point. Not to keep scamming all of you, but just scam enough of you for as long as they could. You know, we were going to film today's episode with me in a fancy Rolls Royce. It was very, very fancy. But we had like half an hour to do it, and then the sun came out and shone exactly where the Rolls Royce was and the camera needed to be, so it was completely fucked. So now I'm a car, like in the Disney's, the Pixar's, the Cars. I don't know if I mentioned that Disney likes to fund homophobic politicians. Anyway, that last point I made is worth thinking about, I believe. The idea that these stunts that EA has tried to pull, that Warner Brothers has tried to pull, that Sony has just tried to pull. These stunts aren't meant to be long term. Like I said, corporations only ever think in the short term, so it's no stretch to imagine that they know there will be a controversy when they try and pull these microtransaction stunts. They know they'll have to walk them back, but they don't care because at least they'll make a shitload of cash before they have to. And whether that's the plan or not, it's still the mechanical end result. A lot of fans of this series getting scammed. So have a think about that. And while you do, don't forget to thank God for me. Bye! I'm a car.